evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 206th take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studios of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show. It ought to be. It took me 3 times to get this introduction right, and who can blame me, because we got a great returning guest. It's been a long time since we've seen this gentleman on this show. It is my pleasure to welcome him back to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. But before we get to formal introductions of this esteemed gentleman, we do have to thank the people that make this show possible, and that, of course, is our sponsors. Tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. During its May 12th Freestyle Live Special Edition broadcast, Drew Estate will be introducing its newest premium cigar. So get ready, Drew Estate fans. DE for Life is kicking off May with a bang. They just announced it earlier this month. Last week on the 11th, you could start going to select Drew Diplomat retailers and picking up your one of 10,000 Freestyle Live event packs that are for only $39.99 MSRP. They include a Freestyle Live 3 cigar case, a Freestyle Live cutter, a cigar rest, and a Freestyle Live wallet, not to mention the new premium cigars. Of course, they're unbanded, so you don't know what they are, but smoke them while you got them and find out what the newest line of cigars from Drew Estate will be on May 12th. That's just over a little bit under a month from today. You're going to want to check it out on the Freestyle Live Special Edition broadcast on their Facebook page. And guess what? It doesn't stop there. Plenty of great other things to be had. You know what? They gave away a Bitcoin. What's next after you do that? Well, you give away a Jeep. Yeah, that's right. A brand new 2022 Jeep Wrangler Sport will be given away on this very Freestyle Live. You can check out their website and facebook.com/Drew Estate for rules and all that legal stuff and all that lingo mumbo jumbo, but check it out. You can win a Jeep and you get to smoke some brand new cigars. So check out their Freestyle Live and welcome everybody. This is our 206th take. And tonight's guest is the esteemed gentleman that I'm about to introduce. He's sponsored. This, of course, is sponsored by United Cigars. Smoke one today. Start living United. The founder, the man, the myth, the legend. Yes, it's Omar de Frias of Fratello Cigar. Omar, how you doing tonight?
Bear, I'm gonna hire you next time I have any appearance or anything happening like that. I'm gonna call you and say, bro, do you mind doing an introduction? Because that was good. That was good, man. It's the energy. I'm feeling it. I'm ready, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you for the invite, brother.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, of course, the people who are listening later to this aren't going to listen to the 3 flubs that I had, so it does sound pretty good. The energy is what it's all about. So I'll just be your hype man. That's right. So. Well, Omar, I'm so glad to have you back. It's been so long since I've had you on the show. I've had the opportunity to interview on a couple of other avenues. Of course, we were just talking about this before the show launched. Saw you at PCA last year. So excited about that. We'll be seeing you again this year, which is fantastic. But so glad to have you back, sir. I mean, I know you're just kind of getting back into the regular swing of things. We're talking a little bit about this. So you went out to St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas area and everything. What was that like getting back on the road?
I'm going to tell you right now, it was an adjustment. Barry, you know a little bit about my history on how I got into the sale of premium cigars, right? And for those viewers that don't, I'll give you guys a little bit of an insight onto it, and then you'll see why I'm saying what I'm going to say about what happened this past week. But when I started Fratello, there was nobody that knew, first of all, who I was. They didn't know Fratello. They didn't know who was making the cigar, because I could not disclose the factory that was making it at the time. And it was incredibly hard for a few years to basically, kind of chisel my way through this industry. And the only way that I could that I knew how to do it was basically being on the road. So I would, basically work for NASA Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 12-hour days, go to a destination, Thursday, work remotely, then sell cigars. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back home on Sunday, and then repeated it the week after that. So I was on the road a lot for like almost 6.5, almost 7 years nonstop. I spent a month in Europe because we have about 17 countries that are now carrying Fratello. And so for me, it was a modus operandi, like it was easy. But the pandemic hit, And, that year and a half, 2 years, close to 2 years of not being on the road, it prompted for us other things to do, to focus on in-house operations. How do we grow? How do we grow our base? Marketing, investing in a lot of different areas, because I wasn't spending $120,000 being on the road. So that to me was huge. But now that 2022 is kind of that year where we need to continue to explore and grow, and visit new retailers, people that have been on the road, people that have been supporting us already for a while and that wanted to see us, wanted to spend some time. So we're doing an effort right now. It's my first time actually, being on the road as aggressive as I was. So I went to Kansas and I was exhausted, out of my mind. Like, bro, I was like, I would visit 5 or 6 retailers and my energy level was usually very high because I got to go talk to them. What's happening? People, they come over, say, "Oh, bro, I haven't seen you in 2 years." And you're having those conversations and your energy level is high. But 7:30, 8 o'clock, I was like, I have never done this, prayer. I went to a cigar shop, like literally the day before I was leaving back home, and just bought a cigar from, there was a company that we weren't doing business with, and I just went to the humidor. I bought a cigar. I actually remember it was a Plasencia. I think it was the Alma Fuerte. Got it from the shelves, went over, paid for my cigar, went over to the lounge, sat down, saw the Kansas City Royals, kick some Detroit's butt. And that was all it was, and it was amazing. But usually that would never be what I would do. I would always be like, let me go to another cigar shop and support it. Let me see how much I can sell, how much I can talk to our customers and get our brand going. So I couldn't do it, man. It was like my body was in shock from non-travel.
It's like getting back. I mean, you're a former athlete yourself too, as well.
Yeah.
So it's like getting back in like peak season shape and everything. No, I know what you feel like. I know what you're talking about, because listen, we talked about the PCA, right? And that was such a, the previous 2 times that I had attended, like, don't get me wrong, like I would, like at the end of the week, I was dead, like just dead. But like every night, like I was still jacked, because it was just there was so much adrenaline pumping and everything. And then you would go to after events and things like that. So I mean, we were talking about the fact that we're both extroverts, so we're just like, the adrenaline is just kicking it. And like, but this this past year, like, man, I was just every day just white.
Yeah.
Just white. It was crazy. It was just absolutely sick. And plus the heat was just like off. I mean, it's Vegas, but I mean, the heat like decided to take it to another level. And so it's just,
120 degrees or 100
yeah,
degrees.
it's 105 at like 8 o'clock at night, when the sun's down. It's like, come on, like it's ridiculous. But no, Omar, so good to see you. It's nice to hear that you're going back at the think of things and stuff like that. And so tonight I've actually, this is the first time that I've actually I've been chomping at the bit to sample this particular blend, which comes in 4 Vitola, as representative of 4 different areas. And that's your DMV project. So we've got of course, the Virginia, the Maryland, the DC, the Delaware. The blend is identical, correct?
Is this the 2018? Let me see the brand. Let me see that. Yeah. Yep, that's the 2018, correct. So so those are the OG release of Fratello of the DMV. And so in the first release of the DMV, it was all the exact same blend. It was just different sizes. The Virginia is the Robusto Extra, and that uses a Habano HBA wrapper that is beautiful. It's oily, it's full flavor, and it was kind of like one wrapper that I fell in love with, because I use it also in the Fratello Texan. So it's part of that blend. And then we utilize, to me, something that a lot of people haven't been using too much, which is, double down again on Ecuador. So I use the Sumatra on it in the binder. But what I personally find interesting about, some of these cigars and the way that we launched them was they were meant for a limited release to give the DMV something special from us, because it's, the area that basically gave us our start.
Right. It's home for you. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, so it was a very fun project, and we launched the project in 2019 again, and that was a very fun one, because we made that project more of a, let's find some things that are very unique that have been aging for a long time. And so I contacted Guillermo and Manuelino at the La Aurora factory, and I talked to them about things that they had, worked on for many, many years. So none of those blends are actually Fratello blends. They were blends from prior years. That was the 2019 edition of it. But what's unique about that was, people enjoyed seeing like different and new things. And so it was something that, the consumer got a chance to experience what an Arapiraca, Brazilian Oscuro, was all about on the Delaware blend. And people were flipping out, but I could only make like 95 boxes. But in the case of the DMV DC, I made like 182 boxes and stuff like that. So it was whatever I could get my hands on that I would be able to taste, that would connect with, I feel could be like a nice thing for the consumers in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And it went like fire. Like I sold out on both 2018 and 2019 blends like really fast.
Yeah, these weren't easy to get. So, but I was thrilled to finally nab some.
Yeah.
And of course, I've had the Texan because that was freely available to me because of where I live. Haven't had the chance to the Pennsylvania. That's next on my hunt list. The DMV was like, it was very special, obviously for you. That's why it was special for me to kind of hunt down. It took me a while, but but I really specifically wanted the Virginian. We kind of talked about the Robusto Extra a little bit before we started the show, and this Vitola has kind of become my jam, so to speak. I'm still a Corona and Robusto guy, traditional Robusto size, but whenever I just need something a little bit more, the Robusto Extra in certain blends just really sings home. And this is starting off really well. I'm really enjoying it. It does. I didn't put the piece together until you said it. It does have some striking some sweetness compared to the blend is completely different, but that the wrapper familiarity from the Texan, that sweetness, so the oiliness of the wrapper and stuff like that. So yeah, it is very familiar in that regard. But I'm really digging at a few puffs in here, so we'll see how it continues to perform. I'm excited about it.
Let everybody know.
So Omar, so this kind of kicks off our, like, we've been talking for a few minutes now, but like the kind of wanted to kind of tackle, because the DMV is your home. I mean, that's where that's where you reside, and that's, again, like you said, it was kind of the home of Fratello too. It's where everything kind of got started for you. And so I kind of wanted to hear from you. What's this would be Omar's take, okay? Not what tourists go to do, not what everyone says you should do, but like, we're gonna take a little Omar trip, because I know traveling is a big thing for you, with imperfect pairings and all this stuff that you do with cigars, of course, as well. So we're gonna take a little trip around the DMV, and we're gonna talk about each stop and what's Omar's favorite thing to do. And it could be anything. It could be a restaurant, it could be a museum, it could be whatever it is. So in Virginia, what is Omar's favorite thing to do?
So I'm a fanatic of wineries. So if I can find and I hunt them down like crazy. So if I have I want a winery, obviously, that has that is amicable to cigar smoking, because the beauty of Virginia is unlike any other state. I mean, if you go down to Purcellville area and you start driving down, Leesburg, and you kind of get off route and you find a good brewery or a good winery, you can really get a chance to sit back and enjoy a cigar and watch the scenery. It's beautiful. And so to me, doing the wine trails are incredible. Anybody comes to Virginia, I think you would benefit greatly of going to Monticello, which is the home of Thomas Jefferson, and obviously University of Virginia, and it's a fantastic place to go and smoke cigars and see get your culture shock, because it's going to be so much to do. See the brilliance of that man, and obviously experience great wines. When the Queen arrived to commemorate 400 years of Jamestown, I mean, it was in Monticello that she went, and there was Monticello wines that she had a chance to enjoy. This is the Queen of England that we're talking about. So I think there's a lot of areas in Virginia that you can really take advantage of and go and visit. in Northern Virginia, you have so many other areas that you can go and explore, right? We're talking about the house of George Washington, and
Hmm.
and going and experiencing that, and seeing. Virginia is a very powerful, enriched state with a lot of culture, a lot of diversity, and great sceneries for me, because I'm a big wine guy, great for wine. So in Virginia, Monticello, coming over here for George Washington, his house, and experiencing our wineries and our roads, and it's amazing going to Lake Anna and enjoying it. So there's a lot of things to do.
Yeah, I think is a I think it should be a requirement, and there's no way possible to ever execute on this, but I think it should be a requirement for like every like person who's going to be an American citizen, or actually every American citizen, whether you're born here or not. You should make a pilgrimage to Mount Vernon or Monticello, and or Monticello at some point in your lifetime. I think it just has.
Beautiful.
I think it should happen. Um, Mount Vernon is probably one of my is really is one of my favorites. Not just because it's George Washington's home, but
Yeah, you get a
if
chance to
you
do some chocolate the old way.
well, no, because I'm allergic to chocolate, so no, I
uh,
didn't. But no, I find like the architectural very interesting. So like a part of everyone thinks of like the grand entrance, right? And they think of this like stone like Grecian Roman romantic kind of structure in both Monticello and Mount Vernon. And the
yeah,
interesting thing about Mount Vernon is that a lot of the stone is wood.
yeah,
And how he would do this is like the coolest thing. I'm glad you brought this up, because this is what allows me to nerd out with history. um what he would do is he would have the wood, he would cut the wood with kind of like, I don't know, little divots to make it look like a stone block, and then he would
yeah,
paint it. And what he would do is he would get simple gray paint, and he would throw dirt in it to get the granule stuff, to make it granule, and he would paint the wood so when it would dry, you it felt like stone, but it was just wood.
yeah.
Because he couldn't have because
Wow.
he couldn't have. We think it's interesting, the father of our country couldn't afford a stone to build his house entirely out of stone, but he wanted it to have that facade. And
Wow.
yeah, it's great.
I didn't know that. I love that.
It's crazy.
Good story.
So well, we're going to be taking a journey into Maryland and DC and
Yeah.
Delaware here as we progress through tonight. But so check out some of those infamous places. But that kicks us into tonight's major point, which is always brought to you by the people. Yes, cigar people, the people who know everything about a lifetime of service. Protocol Cigars is more than just pool parties and good times. Well, maybe it is. But behind the fun and the motivate is a motivation for service, a motivation for giving back. From the original Protocol Blue to the latest release in the Lawman series, Bass Reeves, Protocol has always been about honor, passion, and yes, the people. It's what their life's work has been and always will be about. Power of the P, Protocol Cigars. So Omar, we talked a little bit about, we kind of teased it already and everything, but like what happened with Fratello Cigars? Not that you just that question sounds like something happened like it was bad, but what happened for Fratello Cigars during COVID? What, like you said, you're a one-man show in a lot of ways. You do have some great people that work for you, but you're a small company.
Yeah.
What did you do? What was the strategy going in? I mean, because no one saw this coming, and every day was like a new thing.
Yeah. So listen, I was having my best quarter to date, and the start of the pandemic. My January was basically double-digit numbers, from my best January, which was the year before, and then February came and crushed it again. Then March came and I lost 80% of my business overnight, because we're a very heavy brick and mortar brand. 80% of my business comes from brick and mortar, but 20% comes from online. So when you have something like that happening and you're calling your customers, most people are scared of spending money. Maryland was shut down, DC was shut down, parts of Pennsylvania were shut down. I mean, it was incredibly hard, right? And so even Virginia, that is one of my strongest tobacco states, people were on hold. they didn't want to spend, their money. They wanted to utilize the product that they had on the shelves to kind of move it in order very, very smartly, because they didn't know if they were going to be shut down. So everybody, although you may not have been shut down, you were definitely either scared that you could, or you were in the process of like, kind of like keeping your business afloat by doing like, going to the car and dropping off products, stuff like that. And so the people that kind of became very, that became creative about moving their product off the shelves were very, very good. So to me, I saw a lot of people say, oh my God, I flourished. Everybody, I killed it. That was not the case for Fratello. Like for me, we've always been a very strong brick and mortar brand, which kind of hurt us. I'm not gonna lie, because had I been like the majority of cigar companies, especially like the big ones that have, 60% or 50% or whatnot, that are very heavy brick and mortars, and then the other 50% are like, online and all that stuff, then you flourish, right? Because online grew like crazy, but the brick and mortars at that time, during the 2 to 3 months that that they were kind of holding on to their money so that they wouldn't have to spend, because they weren't sure if they were going to get shut down or not, then it was kind of like a slowdown. So for us, it allowed me some time to do something that I reaped the benefits like crazy in 2021, which was to kind of consolidate my operations. We expanded upon we got a new warehouse now that is 4 times the size of what we had before. So it allowed me the time to kind of concentrate on that. So we have a new distribution center. That was one. The second of it was we have a brand new CRM. We doubled down quite a bit on figuring out a way how we could get Fratello to have not only a great social media presence and to grow our social media presence and kind of like dictate it and grow it, but also allowing us to have a better management of our customer and our customer base. So now I can pull reports and I have documentation that I have on customers that haven't ordered in a while, or we have information about what's the better moving product, stuff like that. And so data like this and information like this and structure like this and the development of utilizing, it's not like a once, like you grab just a tool and say, hey, you plug this in there for a CRM and you expect things to happen. You have to work it in a way that it can extract all of the numbers that you're looking for. So it took us 7 months for this process. At that time, Justin Harris was our director of operations during the pandemic, and he was very instrumental in helping us gear this up. So we were, as kind of things slow down for us, we were able to utilize that time to basically do all of the things that we wanted to do. And so when everything kind of started to ramp back up between May, June, and my numbers started to just skyrocket, then I was like, I was able to breathe, and then I was able to consolidate. So prepping for 2021, because I kind of saw the writing in the wall, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is a time where I know I'm going to have to prepare, either by having working on our new distribution locations, expanding a new product, buying more product, because we were building, and 2021 came around and we nearly doubled our sales. It was a massive year for us. We used our resources very well, and we used a CRM like it was magic. So I cannot speak anymore of how important that kind of information was.
So Omar, this is a really unique conversation that I'm having here tonight with you, because a lot of, like you said, you weren't in the same circumstances a lot of the other people that I've talked to, where people were busy, had a lot of infrastructure in place. You had infrastructure, but it wasn't to the regard that you're talking about, to where they could rely on certain things and in certain channels. Like, again, you being so heavy brick and mortar, that's something that a lot of brand owners and manufacturers preach a lot of, but by being diversified, it really helped them. But I mean, so when you said so we're going to get to expansion here in a second for what's that doing that for you now. But when you were in the process of expanding, that meant you had nothing left, right? There was no reserve to get out to your partners and stuff. What were those conversations like? I imagine they were difficult, but I also imagine that they were pretty supportive considering what everyone was going through.
Yeah. So So for me, it was I've been I think I've been very smart about growing Fratello in a way that it makes money for our business, because obviously we're, Fratello is an engine to, to make money for, we're capitalists. This is a situation where we want to make sure that not only we're growing, but also our brick and mortars are growing. So for me, it prompted a lot of very interesting conversations where I was like, people would have appreciated in the past a lot of times where, our online presence was not massive, and they would appreciate the fact that Fratello is a very strong brick and mortar brand. But at the same time, it kind of hurt us too, because now if I would have been if I would have had a large percentage of my business coming from online, boom, that skyrocketed, right? So then for 2021, I was like, right, the writing's in the wall. I need to make a very conscientious effort to grow those channels, grow my cigar club channels, grow my distribution channels, and that's exactly what I did. I concentrated on a select number of accounts. Giving you the information right here because I don't know, I'm an open book. I don't care. I think it's incredibly important. We do business, Bear, with ABC down in Florida with 125 stores. We do a lot of business with them. We do business with Specs with over 90% stores in Texas. We do business with Binny's over in Illinois with 40 plus locations. These locations are pivotal for our growth, right? And these locations help us kind of get our product out. We work with Total Wine. And so if you look at a small brand and the what's being sold in these humidors, it's not, brands that have not been featured in Cigar Aficionado or in like magazines like crazy, or in like, that are like the big four or the big five. The brands that show on those humidors are exactly that. If you're a small brand, the likelihood of you just, getting a bottom shelf and seeing how it goes for you is 100% almost guaranteed. They may give you a shot in 2 or 3 of the locations, but not in 125. Right. So the way that we went about it was we wanted to make sure that we could capture the masses. And that's one of the reasons we built on the Fratello Camouflage, which is a cigar brand that we sell between $3.50 to $3.75 that have done incredibly well for Fratello. But that brand has its avenues, right? And it has its distribution points. So for me, it was important to kind of consolidate and grow one of the fastest growing, chains and markets, which is the liquor stores, right? Like in the liquor markets with humidors, people were putting humidors in liquor stores to be able to sell product because they could, charge and have higher margins. So I utilized that time to be very strategic about my business. I would spend $120,000 on the road every year before COVID. So I utilized the savings of that to get a new distribution center. I utilized the savings of that to now go out on the roadwalk, which is what we're doing right now, and potentially hiring 2 extra people, one in the Florida market, another one in potentially Texas. And we're getting 467 applications. I got in one position alone. So I know people know what we're trying to do. I mean, it's out on Indeed. People get a chance to just review it.
I'm sorry, how many applicants? I'm sorry.
467 applications we got for that position. I was blown the hell away, man. My eyebrows were like burning at just looking at so many resumes. But
my gosh,
being
that's crazy
about this Bear was great for me, man. It was. I mean, we doubled in size. Our sales were incredible. We weren't creating a whole bunch of like brand new products like left and right. We were consolidating. We were structuring. I've never had to, discount or eliminate any of my SKUs. It was just a strategic, landing point for what we're going to do in 2022, which is going to be incredible. I'll let you know a little bit about that too.
Well, that's exciting to hear. So yeah, so jump or leapfrog to now this expansion has happened. You're able to, I mean, 125, 200 to $250,000 in savings from all this travel that you weren't doing. I mean, that's a lot of money that you could reinvest, but you chose to reinvest back in the company. So now you have this infrastructure. So now those conversations are a lot different because now you're like, okay, yes, I know the last 2 years, I haven't been able to fly out and see you and everything like that, but look at what we've done in the meantime. And again, the reception has to be pretty positive from what you're able to show them behind the scenes a little bit.
Yeah, and that is what I think a lot of our retailers now are kind of like understanding a little bit more, that that year and a half of us consolidating our operations allowed us to be smarter about our business, very very smart about our business, so much to the point that I can guarantee you that a lot of the systems, process, SOPs, and our operating procedures, things that we have in place, very not only very few companies have, but also even the large companies which they had. I mean, we're talking everything to the dot of the movement of our product, our customer interaction, making sure that we're on the phone. All of these different things have definitely been incredibly helpful for us to download all this data and analyze it and be smart about analyzing it as well. So small things like this play a gigantic role, and it sure as hell manifested on our growth. So I give you some of these figures to basically put in perspective the impact of being organized, so that you can make a very solid presentation with companies and accounts that have 50, 70, 80, 100 plus doors and businesses, and selling Fratello or selling product. The moment you don't sell a single your brand within 3 months or 5 or 6 months, or whatever that time is, the moment this you're out of the door, and that's it. And you're not getting a break. You're not coming back in.
You're not coming back. Yeah. So I mean, if you could sum it up into like one lesson, Omar, what did the pandemic teach you as a business owner?
So it taught me that diversification is key. It taught me that as much as I enjoy my traditional channels, and as you know, as loyal as I have been to my traditional, brick and mortar channels for Fratello, and the appreciation that has reflected. Because if there's a brand that I can tell you people in the brick and mortar level not only love to work with, but enjoy the products and connect with the brand, is Fratello, right? I mean, it taught me to that diversification is important. And we did, and organization for expansion is important as well, because we've always been very organized, but we were always, because of our constant growth, it was always kind of hard for me to like sit down and just write, sit down and just think. That's a lot of things. I read a lot, quite a few books while on the pandemic, that allowed me to kind of like also see my business from a different perspective, where being a one-man show is not necessarily something where we want to continue to be. It's more about sort of like the expansion of our points of sales and helping our brick and mortars grow, and our channels of distribution, the online channels of distribution, grow, and being smart about it. And I think that's something that there's a reason why the big companies have been able to consolidate those markets incredibly well, is because they've had those resources already in place, and that's exactly where we are right now. So pretty excited about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and just 2 points on that. Like, for example, we were talking about, we were just exchanging personal stories before we started tonight, and now you were asking like what I did for a living, and so I sell software, as we talked about. I sell software to business owners, and that's one thing that like I noticed about business owners, and it's the hardest thing for them to do is let go, is to delegate, is to to diversify, and it's a struggle that every business owner goes through, I think. But where I think I can literally see the transformation in you, because like before, like Omar, I can still come to you. I have your number. I text you, and I mean I can still come to you whenever I want. But this last time when we got you on the show, I went through dentists to get you booked, and while that might seem like we've kind of lost that personal connection, I took it as a personal positive, because I was like, wow, okay, so Omar's super busy. This is really good for Fratello. So I took it as a huge positive. Not that you didn't want to talk to me, but just on the contrary. But that was really something good. So we talked about the fear and the scariness. And if you don't feel comfortable answering this, I totally understand. But you had a very successful career before Fratello. I mean, you're incredibly successful, man. I think that goes without saying, but I'll go ahead and say it again. I mean, was there at any point in the very beginning, did you think about going back to NASA? Did you think about doing anything else, or was this was it? Just we're going.
No, I think that no, it never even crossed my mind, and I've had open doors not only with that, but also, working in contracting and whatnot. There's like there's a million things I could potentially do, that could probably even make me more money than what I'm making here in Fratello. But I'm done trying to live my life based on a paycheck. I want to live my life and work on something that I love first, and things will happen and will continue to happen to follow after that. And so I never had that fear. My fear was primarily not furloughing my employees during this time. It was we kept everybody on board, and I wanted to make sure that they not only knew that the sacrifice that we were making during this time was something that we did it, very conscious. It was a very conscious decision to have, our team know that we support them because they've been supporting us, and they've been and they have been a key point of our growth. And so never had that fear. The biggest fear for me was what I just told you, but then that fear kind of translated into positives, right? Where I was able now to, bring up an idea with my team versus I would constantly be on the road and not be able to have a conversation. That's why it kind of goes back to thinking, like spending time thinking. And my team and I, we came up with really amazing stuff during this time, things that are panning out as we speak with our brick and mortars and with our online retailers, where we made investments of over $40,000-$50,000 in ashtrays, hats, lighters, all of these different things that allowed us to support our brick and mortars with branded items and invest on relationships that are going to pan out actually now in 2022 for really new interesting products that we have coming up. But also primarily with making sure that the connection that we have with the retailer is still alive and well, because we were not so much on the road. We were very active on social media, because we hired, like you said, you mentioned Dennis. Dennis is our social media manager for Fratello, and he's been doing a great job. But it's like it's consolidated. The fear always is obviously always there, but you gotta bear in mind, man, this is your boy who quit NASA in 2016 in the midst of the worst regulations this industry has ever seen. It saw brands that opened up in 2013 dropping like crazy, like great brands. People are respecting this industry. Them all.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, I'm not gonna deal with it. Not only did I say I'm not gonna deal with it, I doubled down and I quit my job at NASA at that time. And I said, I'm gonna grow. And in 2017, where everybody was like freaking out, there were the big online guys didn't even go to PCA or the trade shows. People were freaking the heck out. I had one of my biggest growths because, we had that, obviously that lucky, I'm not sure if it's lucky or not, but we had that great article in the Washington Post and, quite a few more press that were, pretty evident for us to keep the mechanism going, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I wasn't going to shy away, baby. If I didn't shy away in 2016, I wasn't going to shy away right now.
That's a fair point. No, I still love your double down. It's still one of my favorite stories from that trade show. The trade show right before the pandemic, where we were talking, and it was before the decision went down about the warning labels, and we saw a lot of brands, big especially, but even small ones, starting to reposition their marketing and making the boxes a certain way so that they could get ready for the labels. And I think that was the year of Inverso. Inverso came out, right? And I was like, and I made that comment to you, and you're like, Bear, I've worked with and in the government. I'm not slowing down for them because it's just not going to happen, or if it does, we'll worry about it then. But it's just not going to happen. And I mean, and like a crystal ball, man, it totally came out the way you did. I was like, man, and when I saw the decision, the first person I thought of was you. The first
Yeah,
person.
and then the repackaging. I started
Yeah.
seeing packaging from General and all these different people. I was like, these people are idiots. Not only are they sending the wrong message, you need to wait all the way to the end. I'm sorry, General. I'm sorry, Altair. Love you guys, but maybe it wasn't the best decision to basically come out and start rebranding. I understand the logistics of it can be insane, and it's not something that you can take for granted, but I was like, you got to hold your horses. It's like, waiting into that moment where you go ahead and click on that button and say, yes, go. You know what I mean? That's when you kind of do it. But I knew it was going to move too slow, man. I read the whole damn thing. I read the whole thing. It was going to move slow. The government moves slow. You battle regulation with lawsuits. You don't battle it with a machine. And so that takes time, that builds upon it. And so when people are saying, oh, like even Hoya and Laudora were like, guys, we need to modify your logo. We need to put your logo over here now because the warning labels are going to go here. I said, don't do anything at all. I don't want to see a single change on the Fratello boxes. Just send them exactly what it is. And I remember having that conversation with you. It's like, I'm not going to do anything at all.
The first person I thought of when it came down, I was like, oh man, it was just beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And you mentioned diversification, and we're going to get into and a lover of all things in your passion for a lot of stuff, and we'll go into that here in this next question. But we got to take a break because we got to take what Omar's favorite things of the DMV. So we're going to go over to DC now. Okay, where you obviously spent a lot of time, and we talked about the Washington Post article that featured you, of course, which is very infamous at this point. And obviously a huge positive for Fratello, but what that did for the industry too, is still one of the best mainstream media pieces that have happened in the cigar industry in the last 10 years, easily.
Yeah,
and JC Newman gets a lot of mainstream coverage down in Florida. They do a great job down there, especially with their factory and everything like that. But outside of that, the Fratello story was probably the best in the last 10 years for the industry, in my opinion.
Thank you.
So we're in DC. What you're in DC? What's Omar's favorite thing to do in DC? What are we doing?
There's so many activities on the weekends. I personally love and adore spending time in the mall. The DC mall, and walking and seeing the Capitol. It's impressive, guys. Like, I every single time I go into DC, I am in awe of our Capitol. The reconstruction when they fixed the Capitol Dome, and Lady Liberty was now shinier than ever, and you could see that dome just beautiful, just like it's got that mother of pearl like coating to it that it's fascinating. So being able to go, for those of you guys that enjoy kind of like a nightlife, atmosphere, whatnot, going to a nice rooftop and you can get a chance to see the Capitol, see the Washington Monument, understand that the beauty of the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, which is one of my personal favorite memorials, and kind of walking through that history, seeing the beauty of it, I think it's unparalleled. There's nowhere like it in the United States of America, so there's no way you can not love that exposure. Right now, the White House was another view that was a beautiful thing to see, but unfortunately during the Trump years, there was a lot of added security. So now you have to see it from a very far place. You were able to just like get right next to the gate and see and just appreciate the lawn and appreciate the beauty of it. But too many security threats, and so unfortunately now it's not as nice as to see it as it was before. But if you enjoy, going to great tobacco spots, you got Draper, which is right next to the White House, right, with our buddy John Anderson and Ted and Matt, and then you can go up to the Chinatown area and go to TG Cigar and enjoy, a cigar right next to the convention center. A lot of these places, thankfully, we're able to not only remain in business because of how hard the pandemic hit those stores, because nobody was going to DC. I mean, you got to bear in mind the pandemic, my man. It was like, DC is fed by feds and contractors, lobbyists. It's what everybody lives in the outskirts. Everybody lives in Northern Virginia or Maryland. Only 500,000 people live in DC. People stopped traveling. So it was very, very hard hit. So Thankfully, a lot of these places made it and are in business, thankfully, right now to continue to grow. But if you guys enjoy getting on a bike and just go through the mall, it's fantastic. If you enjoy a great brewery, there's great breweries in DC. So there's a lot of good stuff, but I cannot speak any more about them all. And then hitting all of those amazing museums, like the Air and Space Museum, the most visited museum in the world, by the way, the Air and Space Museum in Washington, DC, over Louvre, over all of these different places, number
Over
one
the
place.
Smithsonian, over the Met, over the Louvre. That's
Over
crazy.
it's massive. I mean, you got to bear in mind it's also free, but still the most visited place in all over the museums.
Well, in a different time and place in history, I spent a long ass time in a huge line to get into the Louvre back in my 20s. So that's and that was like a Wednesday. So like that's pretty incredible. That's awesome. What an interesting set. Whenever I think about the National Mall, I always think about the I mean there's so much history, like you said, but my mind always kind of goes back to the I Have a Dream speech, Martin Luther King Jr. And it's every Martin Luther King day, I take a moment to reflect, and I pull up the YouTube video and I listen to that speech again.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird, I mean, obviously poignant tradition, but it's a very weird tradition. I'm not Black, but his words weren't just, I mean, well, certainly they were for a Black audience, but they were for an audience that I think for the ages, because I think there will always be a battle for civil rights. And I'm not gonna get into politics and talk about race or anything like this at this time or anything like that, but there will always be a battle for even footing when we're talking about the nature of man and everything. So that speech is very timeless, because I think it can, I mean, you can even go back in history before it, and it can be, a lot of it can be applied. So it's a very, very, very powerful speech. And it's something that I always think of when I think of the National Mall and stuff.
And being there where he stood, it's incredible. It is definitely incredible.
I bet it's awe-inspiring, like you said. It's very awe-inspiring. So that's a really great spot. I like these. I like this. This was just something I came up with earlier this week. I was like, I want to talk to him about this because what I'm smoking and everything. And but I had no idea where it was going to go. But like you're tugging at my emotional heartstrings with these historical places and stuff. This is cool.
For sure.
So I mean, we talked about, you mentioned breweries a couple of times in these other spots and everything. We know you love wine. We know you love beer. So Fratello beer was one of the things that you diversified with.
Yes.
You have the Mexican lager, the IPA, and what you and I toasted the end of PCA last year, which was the hazy IPA, which that was freaking delicious. Holy crap. Like what got you, I mean, obviously you like a lot of things and everything, but what got you into the mind of like, hey, because I've always thought of you as a wine guy. Like what got you into like, I'm gonna make beer?
Yeah. So it was the connection with Adroit Theory, man. We had a great I've known this guy for many, many years. He's a super cigar aficionado. And every single time we would get together, we would try to find interesting pairings with my cigars, because he was, he's a big time Fratello smoker. So it was that, man. It was creating something new with somebody else. I always call it a collaboration with him, because this is Mark Osborne from the owner of Adroit Theory. He gave me full reign into being able to say, hey, based on my palate, this kind of flavor profiles could potentially go better with this and XYZ. And so that connection to me was more emotional, was something that I felt could have more longevity for something that was different. And obviously utilizing, or the points of sales that we currently have to be able to utilize the co-branding opportunities, right? So being able to do something like that with him was awesome, because we already have our beer in about 12 total wines in Northern Virginia, because we have distribution in Northern Virginia, DC, and Maryland. And we're looking to obviously grow our distribution past that, but it's that hazy, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because I love that hazy with passion.
I drank a lot. I don't drink as much beer as I used to, but like I started tapering off right around what they call the haze craze, which was like where
Yeah.
everyone was doing a hazy, and a lot of times it just got nuts, and there were just a lot of just weird shit that people were throwing into it. And so when I saw you did a hazy, I was like, okay, Omar's a smart businessman. I get why he's doing it.
Yeah.
And so, but there was this natural skepticism. I'm not gonna lie. But
Yeah.
when I saw what you put into like the ingredients that you had in, and then I obviously sampled it, I was like, damn, this is good. So did you? So you talked about pairings and stuff like. So is Fratello beer meant to be paired with certain Fratello cigars, or
Yeah.
is it completely independent?
No, it was definitely I created this beer so that I can, primarily enjoy them myself and pair them with some of our product.
Okay.
Um, but it was special, man. It was meant exactly for that. But then all of a sudden, because it was meant to pair with our cigars, all of a sudden we're now having beer that is coming out that is very unique, that is very different. It's nice. It has a very nice long finish, but because we prepare the recipe based on how it would smoke with our cigars. And so I think that juncture was key. And obviously, but we created a standalone brand with it. And so we registered the name. We own the name under the beer section of Fratello. So we did a really great job, and we're coming out with our third batch right now. And so it's gonna be released very soon, and it's gonna have some interesting changes to it. We're gonna have like a little cigar in the back and some notes about for people to kind of understand a little bit better what we were trying to do. Give them more information, utilize more of the space within the beer to use that moment to teach the craft beer aficionados out there and the cigar aficionados for sure.
We could spend a lot of time talking about your your unique pairings and show and everything.
Yeah.
But and I know we spent some time talking about tequila because I loved your tequila episode specifically. Have you thought about branching off into spirits or wine? I mean, like I said, I know you're a wine guy. Has that?
Yeah, so I have, man, because I love wine with passion. And I love spirits. The only reason I have not dived into any of these two yet is because for me, creating a new product is not just creating something that could be a marketing thing and then just putting a nice label on it and pushing it. For me, there's an emotional aspect to it. It's like the emotional aspect of me creating a new cigar when I go down to Joya de Nicaragua, when I sit down with Mario, Juan Ignacio, Dr. Alejandro Martinez Cuenca, we're all talking about the same cigar. We're all talking, I don't consider myself a master blender bear by any means, but I do consider myself a master tester, and I know exactly what's coming on in every one of my cigars. So when I tell them, it's like, this is what the wrapper that I want to use, this is the binder, and we come out with 3 or 4 different blends, and we're talking about it, we're discussing it. To me, the being able to discuss it, not making a sole decision upon my product. Obviously, I am the last decision maker, and all of these are Fratello products. But for me, having a conversation with Mario or the people in the factory that have been smoking cigars for 30 years, 25 years, and get their point of view, challenge them as well, and say, why don't you do X, Y, Z, which is something that we've always done. Why don't you do with the inverso? Let's inverse all the tobacco. I said, what are you crazy, Omar? No, let's try it. Let's do this. And being able to have that conversation back and forth, I think is key. So creating a new product to me is not just the marketing aspect. Let me see how I'm going to put it. To me, creating a new product has to do with how can I connect with more people. I feed, my energy is fed, and we talked about this earlier before the show. I feed from the energy of other people.
Mhm.
And so when I get a chance to build upon a product like I did with the beer, it was that me challenging Mark and saying, no, let's go ahead and let's use this other pulp. This apparently this particular batch of pineapple that we use, I don't think it connects as well. Having those conversations to me is incredibly exciting. And I've made a mistake in the past of not documenting some of this stuff because I think people would find it fascinating. But I kind of learned my lesson about that. I want to be more people involved as we are creating new things so that they can see a little bit more of that behind the scenes of how we do it.
That's really good. That's really
Mhm.
exciting. I like the idea of you just diversifying this way. And it's not too, like you said, it's not too over the top. Like you're not spreading yourself really like thin. You're not like a beer, you're not a beer brand owner and a cigar brand owner. You're like you're the founder of Fratello, and then you're doing all these different things with it. And like, especially like Fratello, like I was going to ask you the question, but you answered it for me when I said, well, where can I get it in Texas? Well, I can't yet. Because I've wanted to get some more of that hazy, but
Yeah.
but the fact that you've kind of keep it in your close to home where you are,
Yeah.
and we're maximum control and everything, and with the strategic partners that you said, it's done a really well for you. Real quick question with these state exclusives, by the way, I'm about over a little halfway through this Virginia, and I'm going to be lighting up another one here shortly. But man, this really is fantastic in this size. I mean, I have nothing to compare it to in terms of the other Vitolas yet, but I'm really glad I picked up the Virginia, because I'm really liking it. It's fantastic. The oiliness of the wrapper really is I think is the star of this particular blend.
Thank you.
And it's really smoking good. I'm really enjoying it.
It's my favorite total in the DMV too.
Oh, really? That's fantastic. So where I was going to go with this too was the state exclusives thing. I was wondering, were you inspired by, because this was a very unique way. Like a lot of people do shop exclusives. Like you and Gary Pesh, Virginia Tobacco, go back a long time. You have that. I don't know if you're still doing it, but you had that store exclusive, which was the rounded torpedo, the traditional Parejo torpedo, instead of your iconic boxer, which was very good. And I don't say that lightly, because I'm not a torpedo fan. So it was very good when I had the opportunity to have it. But did you, the state thing is very unique. Were you inspired by John Huber of Crown Heads? He did the Buckeye and the Yellow Rose and the Tennessee Waltz and stuff like that, or was it? I mean, was it something else?
It was the work that we did behind the DMV that prompted that. And then I had some interest on people's side. Have you ever considered doing something for Texas? Have you ever considered some stuff for Florida, Florida, North Carolina, different states? I was like, that could be really fun to do one offset at a time and focus on product and items that are specific to a region. And so I wanted for Texans, for when I was my first, kind of breaking out of the DMV and I launched the Texan, I wanted with the Texan something that was on the medium full body. I wanted something a little bit larger, as in terms of like the ring gauge, but balanced. I didn't want it to be gimmicky. I wanted it to be unique. And so a lot of people say, "Oh my God, Omar, you did the Texas on 718 by 58 because."
You did it right, man. Don't let anyone give you shit. That's terrible. No one should give you crap about it. That was perfect.
It was perfection, man.
I'm not a big gauge guy, and it was perfect. Like, let's just call it
perfect line. It was a perfect ring gauge because it was what allowed the cigar to flourish through the smoke. And we sell the hell out of it in Texas. We sell the hell out of it at Michael's and quite a few other places in the DMV. But it was the ring gauge and the length of that cigar that allowed for a lot of that powerful smoke to come through without being too overpowering. Because we did it on a Robusto, we did it on a Toro, and it was powerful, man. We put Andullo tobacco on that. We put 8 different tobaccos on this bear. 8 different tobaccos. It's the heaviest cigar I have by far, by a long mile, and it is just full flavor. So it was all those state exclusives. Pennsylvania was awesome because we were able to utilize a very small portion of tobacco that we had access to. It was a Connecticut broadleaf that we were able to produce about 300 some boxes. It was not much because we didn't have much of that tobacco, but it is phenomenal. But we did it with a purpose. We blended that cigar with tobacco using, Pennsylvania broadleaf so that we can tell the story. And so this kind of stuff, man, I feel like I need to do a better job sometimes in letting people in and knowing these stories so that they can connect. Why did we do this? And so I'm glad we're doing this kind of disclosure, and you ask great questions about this kind of stuff because it helps us let them send a message to the consumer for sure.
it's such a fun thing. I really like it because it's a way of not just doing the store exclusive, but really kind of rewarding an area like the DMV. Like that was perfect for you because of, again, where you started and everything.
Yeah.
I thought the Texan project was perfect. I can't believe people gave you crap about that. That's just crap. That's stupid.
It's great.
But I haven't had the Pennsylvania yet, but yeah, I mean the blend. I mean, obviously, it had to have Pennsylvania in it, and it's really cool that you did that.
Yeah.
To go back to a couple of seconds ago when you were talking about when you're in the factory, and like you said, you're not a master blender by any stretch, but you're a master tester,
Yeah.
and you said you wish you had a chance to like record some of this.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Did you? Because the Fratello is there's a very poignant Italian theme running through it from the name, from the names of the blends, the way you spell Classico, Bianco, Navetta. Like it's there the Italian theme runs through. Have you ever doubt? I mean, it's unlike any other style. Like we talk about um the Toscano style. Have you ever thought about an Italian style cigar? Has that ever crossed your mind? It'd be
It is
something
now.
way different. Second great idea that I've given you. There was another one that we
I
texted
like
about
this.
a
I
couple of
like
years.
this.
Yeah, so
Toscano, watch out, buddy.
it's yours.
Watch out.
That's cool. That's cool. No, I, I it's not those Toscano style cigars are not for everybody. I enjoy them on occasion. I'm not gonna lie, because they are so different.
Yeah,
That
really.
that's that Tennessee tobacco and the way that the wet
Yeah.
rolling and stuff, and they've been doing it for longer than even traditional, what we would consider traditional cigars have been going on. 200 plus years. It's crazy, but
Yeah.
I think it'd be kind of cool for you to do. So, all right. So let's take a stroll into Delaware. Speaking of the DMV, so let's go
Yeah.
back into Delaware. So whenever I think of Delaware, there's two things I think of when I think of the state of Delaware. One, first state or colony to ratify the Constitution. So they were basically state number one, essentially.
Yeah.
And two, I think of the bit in Wayne's World when they're doing a little time warp and they're traveling through states and they're like, oh, we're over here, and then, oh, we're in Delaware. Hey, we're in Delaware. So what does Omar do when he goes to Delaware? Because I know there's more to that than that. I don't mean any disrespect for anyone from that fine
There
state.
it is.
But what does one do? What does Omar do? Not one, but again, this is about what Omar's take on what do you do in Delaware? What's
I
Delaware?
appreciate Rehoboth Beach down in Delaware. It's a very fun, family oriented, beautiful boardwalk. Something you can just kind of chill. Get away from the city and kind of be kind of like your own small beach town. I think it's fun. Obviously I am from the Caribbean, so I'm not. I'm also not hating on the beaches in Delaware or any other place in the United States or in the world, but Dominican Republic being in the island that it is, we have some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. So,
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical sometimes when I see
It's a different
hey,
beach. Like, let's be honest.
beautiful beaches and beautiful. It's like, yeah, they're very nice. They're very nice.
Was there a specific beach in particular, or just?
In Delaware?
Yes.
Yeah, Rehoboth Beach. It's called Rehoboth
Rehoboth, yeah.
Beach.
Okay, yeah, because I know about their boardwalk. You were mentioning the boardwalk, so yeah. So yeah, it's a really interesting kind of. It almost has I've actually been there too, so it's interesting. I think it's the best way to describe it, and I'd love to hear if you kind of agree with this. It's a toned down Coney Island. I don't know.
If I could have said any better. That's dead on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's dead on.
so I'm not crazy. Okay, yeah, it's a toned down Coney Island feel, and so not like Coney Island's not obnoxious, but it's like Coney Island's it's very populous. It's always very bustling and stuff, but it's like a toned down Coney Island, but it still has that feel, that nice boardwalk feel and everything, and it's beautiful, like you said. Though, for like you said, the beaches are just different. It doesn't make them any less beautiful. It's just a different type of beauty. It's a different type of fun. It's the water isn't as crystal clear blue as it is in the Caribbean and stuff. You're not sipping a Mai Tai. It's a different feel, but it's still beautiful. I love the lighthouses and everything. I love the East Coast beaches all the way up to Maine. all the way down to the Carolinas and stuff. It's just a different feel, and it's beautiful. That's awesome.
It is.
Awesome. Okay.
You have
Well,
Maryland with the Maryland crab. I mean, these are places, man, that when people say, hey man, I want to stay in Maryland, I want to stay in this particular location, you need to go to, Baltimore. It's a flourishing city for great cuisine. Flourishing is great food. You get some pit beef sandwiches in any corner, and they will be delicious. You can get great crab and just sit down and enjoy family style. It's going to Annapolis and experiencing the small town feel with it, where the Naval Academy is, and kind of walking that town, seeing the Capitol building, and if you have the possibility of getting on the boat and seeing the bay, it's just it's beautiful, man. It's
okay, so
beautiful.
we're jumping to Maryland. So is that the thing to do in Maryland for you?
Good. 100%, man.
Okay.
Annapolis is what's up. Baltimore, the experience in the cuisine in Baltimore is fantastic. Yeah, I kind of jumped into from Delaware to Maryland, from Delaware to Maryland, because it is, we're also kind of close, but you're right. It's like you're going through Maryland, also you're here, in Delaware, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'm in Pennsylvania right now. You know what I mean? It's the truth. So you kind of have to get lost a little bit in Delaware to experience it. But Delaware also gets, it can very easily get lost because of the amount of beautiful states that are also surrounding it. Like you get a chance to go to Pennsylvania within an hour and a half. You got Maryland so close, DC, all of these different areas, and so it's unique.
Guys, if you don't want to name a favorite, that's fine. But what's a restaurant in Maryland? You said that it's the cuisine. So is there a restaurant in Maryland that's like that you
One,
frequent quite a bit?
yes,
Just
there is. So probably, okay. So I'm gonna try and remember it. I think it is called Blue. I'm gonna remember it shortly, but it's probably one of the best breakfasts I have ever had. Period. End of story. Guy Fieri has been in this restaurant and done some work. There is a fantastic place in right outside of Baltimore, where you eat some of the best. It's pit beef. So you basically get a chance. It's savory. They've been there for 30, 40 years. I'll remember some of these places, and I'll put them in the chat so people can look them up and enjoy them. But I'm sometimes can be pretty horrible with some of these names, and so I have to kind of look them up. But there's some really great restaurants in Baltimore, some really interesting small diner places in the area that I think people would really get a chance to try. So let me look it up. I think it's like,
is it the Maryland Blue Crab House?
No, that's a different one. That's pretty good. Oh, it's called Chaps Pit Beef.
Oh, Chaps Pit Beef. Yeah, that's infamous. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It is phenomenal. And then there's one. I completely forgot the name of this. Blue Moon Cafe. Blue Moon Cafe. People, listen to me. This place is ridiculous, this breakfast. Okay, they do this. They have this a French toast, where part of the way that they powder the milk and they utilize the milk to make this particular dish so spongy and so flavorful is they use Captain Crunch, milk.
Yes,
So Captain
that's right.
milk.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh
over.
yeah.
It's like go home, because you're gonna. It's just the best thing you've ever had. Period. End story.
Yeah, that's right. So we've been having this discussion a lot because Guy Fieri's been in the news in the cigar industry because of his partnership with Eric Espinosa, and so I've been a big follower of Guy since like the day when he was competing on Next Food Network Star. That's when I first started watching Guy Fieri, and so I followed all the shows. I mean, very early. I can't say it now because there's been like 10,000 episodes at this point, but there was a good solid run of like 5 or 6 seasons of diners, drive-ins, and dives where I saw every single episode. And I
Yeah,
remember the Captain Crunch French toast, which I make for my family
yeah.
now because of this place. So absolutely 100%. Like it's going to be on my next stop up there for sure. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Oh, that's fantastic. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that's really cool. Well, that was our, we started with talking about a lot of history with Monticello, Mount Vernon, a couple of the historical spots, the Monticello wine trail, because you're big into wines for Virginia, obviously, and we talked about DC and the National Mall, Delaware, Rehoboth Beach, specifically the Boardwalk, and then of course Maryland cuisine with a couple of these places like Chaps Pit Beef and stuff. This will all be in the show notes, everybody. For these are Omar's picks. So this is what Omar does when he travels around the DMV. Not what you should do, not what the tourists say, but this is Omar. This is
Take it
Omar's
from Omar.
Omar's DMV.
Omar steak.
Yeah. So I love it, man. That's fantastic. So last couple things before we get into our fun segments for the night here, Omar. You mentioned it earlier with the camo was a really interesting segue for your brand, just because it was
Yeah,
able to capitalize on a really interesting market, because there's not much glitz, there's not much glamour. It's not like someone's rolling into Casa de Monte Cristo or a high end, like they're not going into Drapers and looking for a camo. They're gonna go for something else, or obviously one of your more premier brands and everything like that if they're smoking Fratello. But it it did carve out this really interesting niche for you. And to say nothing of the fact that the blends are, for what you're getting, I mean, are great value.
yeah.
Um, what was, I mean, we talked about the naysayers and the Texan, but what were some of the naysayers saying to you, and why were you ultimately able to brush them aside and led to, because Chemo's been a success for you. I think
Yeah,
that
it
goes
has
without
been.
saying.
Yeah, it has been. I'll tell you, the majority of people were like, I cannot believe Omar's going to get into this segment. It's convoluted, is busy, it's complicated. It's the race to the bottom. It's a price point issue. I mean, I heard it all, right? But it was what a lot of these people didn't see was the fact that I bought every single bundle that was out on the market. And again, I wish I could, I could like document some of this stuff, but I'll just tell you, every single bundle in the market, I bought it. I put it on shelves in my house, and I looked at them. And the one thing that, unfortunately, each and every one of them screamed was cheap. So I wanted to do something that its branding represented something beautiful, something unique. The camel was the first thing that came to my mind. And because of that, and the effect of me thinking about the consumer wanting to buy something that wouldn't necessarily look just inexpensive. I mean, I think there is a, like, it could be a branding thing. I just don't get it. Where, maybe the most horrible the band is, and the cheaper the band looks, maybe the more sales you get from this particular product. I don't know. But I did a hell of a job with branding the Fratello Camo so that it could compete on the shelves, head to head with a lot of this, big manufacturers
Mhm.
of bundle product. But then the second part was, can I smoke the cigar? And if it's a cigar that I cannot smoke, it's a cigar that I cannot sell. So all of the Camos, not only I smoke, but I smoke regularly because I enjoy them. But it's a cigar that sells for $3.50 to 375. And we've carved a small niche of our company into this product that has allowed us to have, supply a company like ABC, supply companies like mass distribution companies in the Midwest and in Michigan with this product that people are enjoying. You're right, it's not a product that's for you to enjoy and go get at Duplicate or Draper, but I can guarantee you'll find it in 25 different locations all over throughout Virginia.
Mhm.
That, we tackle specific distributors that have the ability to be able to place it and are constantly reordering. So it was an interesting niche, and I'm glad I got into it for sure.
there's a couple things to unpack there, Omar, because I think there's an irony to what you were saying about the way that the other brands manufacture their value bundles. There's some that, like you said, it feels cheap. And I'm certainly not going to name names here on those particular ones, but that you're absolutely right. The irony that I find is that you named it camo, and what is camo? It blends in, and your camo cigars do anything but blend in
Hmm.
with the unique coloring and everything. And so I thought, and the fact of and the sect of which they're in this value brand sect, and then
Yeah.
they pop off the shelf. And so it's it is interesting. I found that incredibly ironic, the name that you named it, because of what you were kind of going for, and then you kind of just elaborated a little bit on it. Like that's true, but that's true. Like I think like Perdomo Fresco is another example, or a good example like yours, where this is a value brand cigar and the label does not look cheap. It pops,
Yeah.
and I think that even the consumer that is buying that cigar, yeah, they're buying price, but those consumers have eyes just like the rest of
Yeah.
us who don't
Yeah.
necessarily dabble in that sect as much. And what are they going to go to? They're going to go to they're going to go to a camo. They're going to go to a fresco. Why?
100%.
Because they pop, and it's it totally makes sense. Well done. I mean, bravo for you for kind of shaking off that the couple of those speed bumps and stuff, and kind of seeing it through. And the irony of the name is just it's just fantastic. I love it. So um this is my last question before we jump into the fun segment. So there's been a lot of chatter in the premium cigar industry, the subject of responsible marketing, and
Yeah.
and and rest easy, Omar. You're certainly not guilty of this in my eyes, because I think if anything, your branding has been pretty consistent, with the exception of the camo. But we just discussed why that's different. But you've never done anything like some of the stuff that's come up in these discussions and everything. What's your take on the subject of responsible marketing, and do you feel it's an obligation for you to either participate in responsible marketing, or are you of the mind of like, hey, to each their own and you do your thing? Where does Omar de Frias stand on that?
So I feel like you know, ruffling the feathers of ruffling the feathers of the United States federal government, especially when it comes to when it comes to kind of being in the eye of the beholder like we are with the FDA, is a bad idea. I feel like you know the things that we battle the most is like, are you you know, and the thing that comes up all the time, are you marketing cigars to children, to people under 18 years old or 20 years old, whatever the hell that is. And I feel like, you know, we got to be very careful. We got to tread carefully, because it would be a mistake to kind of like give ammunition to the federal government to say, hey, you know what? Here's a perfect example. You know, Krispy Kreme cigars, or here's a perfect example, bubble gum. You know, it's there's no need to create a bait, to grab it, and for somebody else that wants to hurt us to grab it and run. So am I going to go out and publicly shame some of these companies or whatnot? Probably not. That's not my style. Am I going to stand up and say, you know, like we're saying right now, that I think it's a good move? Absolutely not. I think we need to be careful. Um,
No,
that's
I
it.
agree. I mean, you and I are in the same boat there. I just thought it was an interesting perspective, because we mentioned them earlier tonight. I mentioned them earlier tonight, and then you're another example of this, right? So like one of the biggest pieces of argument that I've heard from some of these brand owners and manufacturers who've selected to go their avenue, and they're in with their right to do so. It's a free country. We're capitalists, like you said earlier. But what I will say is like one of the big arguments that I hear from that sect is, like, you're taking the fun out of cigars. Like, you need to have fun. You need to have fun. And it's like look, I'm not anti-fun. My sons may argue with me on occasion on that, but I'm not anti-fun, because if you look at for Omar, if you look at Fratello, and I mentioned John Huber a second ago, if you look at Crowned Heads, John has a lot of fun with marketing. And he does it a lot with his, his other stuff, like his hats, like he's known for hats. Espinosa makes fantastic t-shirts, and you can have fun in the industry. And look, I mean, look behind you at your label, the uniqueness of the label and how it sits on the cigar, which we've talked about before, the branding, the coloring, you have a fun brand. It's fun, but it's it pays homage. It's traditional in a lot of ways. It's respectful in a lot of ways. But if anyone spends 5 minutes with you and says Omar de Frias isn't fun, I'd freaking go to fisticuffs with him, because that's just ridiculous. Like, you have fun with this.
You love me.
Yeah, I do love you too. But like you're a fun guy. Like, it's this, you have fun, and so that argument seems very hollow to me, because it just seems to lack substance when if they want to compare themselves to you as an example. Like, I'm just like, well, then that just holds no weight in my opinion. So but it was interesting to get your perspective on that. So so moving on to some of our fun segments for tonight, we always talk about this is always the part of the night where we do our One Must Go segment. I know you participated on Cigar Coop's Primetime Special Edition when I had the privilege of interviewing you a few months ago. But just as a reminder, so how it works, Omar, is I give you 3 things, and one's got to go. One's got to go. You kick one to the curb. So One Must Go is always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Gian Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, and the highly acclaimed Atabey and Byron lines. So smoke one today and start living united. So here it is, Omar. I saw it back in January. You had the privilege of visiting one of my favorite countries in the world, because I think it's so beautiful. We talked about beauty being different in different places, the Caribbean, the beaches on the East Coast of our great country here. But you got to visit Spain. And I think Spain is one of the most beautiful countries in the world, from the architecture to the, to even the rural areas and stuff. I just think it's a beautiful country all around. So I wanted to give you 3 cities in Spain. And it's not a diss. You're not saying that city sucks. It's just the one out of the 3 that you don't like, that you would say hey, one's got to go, right? One's go. Here we go. So here we go. So here are the cities. So we got to go with Madrid. Okay. One of the most populous cities in the country. It's capital, obviously. So Barcelona, okay, is the second city. But a small city that I know for a fact you spent some time in this last trip, which is of course Seville. So
Barcelona has to go.
Barcelona's got to go. It's that snap decision. Okay. All right. So let's compare a little bit more apples to apples here. Madrid and Barcelona are the 2 most populous cities in the country. So, but it was easy for you. So what separates Madrid? Seville's a little bit different. We'll talk about Seville here in a second. What separates Madrid from Barcelona that you can snap decision that quickly? What is about it?
Very, very easy to answer. Is the amount of tourism that, and the concentration of this tourism in the city of Barcelona is, to me, too much. I love the city. I love the infrastructure. I love, las Ramblas. I loved the churches. I love the food. It's a great city. It is, but I can get lost much easier in Madrid. Connect much better with, like there's a nice place for tapas in every single corner in that beautiful city, and it's so authentic. I love the authenticity of Madrid. And so for me, I would have to 100% go with Madrid and Sevilla. On both in this case, I got a lot of respect and a lot of mad love for Barcelona, but the tourism aspect of it is too much. It's too much.
So you put me to shame there by pronouncing Sevilla correctly. So so what is it about that city? Because I know you spent some time recently there, specifically there this last trip, but it's a beautiful city, right? I mean, what is it about?
Sevilla. You gotta go to Seville. So Sevilla has, to me, this small town feel. It's like this Madrid, it's like the 0.05% of Madrid, with the authenticity of it as a city. It has the people and their warmth, to me are incredible, because also people play a big role for me in this decision of me telling you between Madrid, Barcelona, and Sevilla. To me, the people in the south are very warm, very engaging, and it's even funny the way that they pronounce some of the stuff. So I thought that was very unique. I've had I've had great food in Madrid, probably over some of these other like places, but you cannot beat the music aspect, the flamenco, the people dancing in the street, the excitement, and the voices. It's just, to me, it was a special place.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's Spain's like I said, it's one of the most beautiful countries. I love Spain. I also, my wife is German, so I'm really partial to Germany as well when it comes to European countries. There's just
Yeah.
so much beauty in there. It's in like we said, like it's different type of beauty, especially like when you think about the architecture, like here in this country, like even in like some of the most beautiful architecture in this country is in like is in like the bigger cities like Chicago and New York. I mean, the
Yeah.
skyscrapers. I mean, it's to use a term from you earlier, it's awe inspiring, right? It's awe inspiring.
Yeah.
But like things like in the DMV, where they took like historical architecture from Europe, from Greece
Hmm.
and Rome, and it's it's heavily influenced in that way. But like, I mean, the Empire State Building is coming up on or might be 100 years old, or it's coming up on 100 years old. I mean, there are buildings, churches in Europe that are 5 times that age.
Yeah.
So, and still standing.
My brother was in London up to like 2 years ago, and one of his buddies, he was telling that one of his friends that you need to go to San Francisco, you need to go to this particular place. It's been there for like, I don't know, like 150 years, something like that. And the guy, he was telling that to my brother, saying, "What, mate? My building is older than that. Well, you want me to go see a 150-year-old building?" And it's that kind of stuff. It's very, very true.
Absolutely. All right. So Omar says goodbye to Barcelona. Nothing personal. Just over Madrid and Sevilla. It just is going to take the cake. So that was our one must go segment. Thank you, Omar. And as always, it's brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana and distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, and the highly acclaimed Atabay and Byron lines. So smoke one today and start living united. Now, I lumped this segment into our segment, and this one might take a slightly different turn, but it's going to be inspiring, I promise you, to my audience, because I think the story behind this is really incredible. And this is our charity segment that we do every week. We've done this over a year and a half now. It started on my birthday over 18 months ago, and it's been really fantastic. If you're new to this show, every week I ask my guest or guests to select a charity or nonprofit of their choosing. It can be cigar related, doesn't have to be cigar related. In fact, we've had some really great discussions that have nothing to do with cigars in this segment. And today is going to be certainly in that category. So Omar, you selected a very well-renowned and well-known charity, but it has a very, very, very personal appeal for you. And that you selected the Susan G Komen Foundation, which of course helps and treats and educates the world, the community, and particular women, and of course their families, on the struggles and the dangers and everything around breast cancer. So
Yeah.
why the Susan G Komen Foundation, Omar? What was it about this one particularly?
Yeah. So my mom passed away in 2007 from stage 4 breast cancer. She was 60, and I felt like she definitely left way too early. And it's something that I've gotten involved, obviously, because of how close to my heart this was and this is. And so I always felt like if I can do a little bit more into getting myself involved, either in education or support, financial support, or just my time, to be able to highlight, and put an extra light onto something like this, I think it would be important. Obviously, we my brothers and I were also very involved in especially the Dominican Republic, when it comes to connecting with people that probably don't have the financial means to be able to go like my mother did, to be able to either travel to the States and try to get that support or try to get that help, and they have to do it in the Dominican Republic, but they just don't have the resources. And we all try to figure out ways to help kind of educate, because the success rate of you beating this cancer, if you're able to find it in time, is really high. But you have to educate, and constantly pay attention to this kind of thing. So every single time I see in October the bats turning into pink, and shirts, or football players having bringing attention to this, I find it incredible, and I love it. I hope it continues, because we still are losing way too many valuable and incredible women in our lives to this horrible disease. And I'm hoping that I'm glad you brought in this segment, Bear, because there's no such thing as too much information. The more the better. So.
Oh, indeed, and I mean, again, I know it's been quite some time, but I'm very sorry about the loss of your mother. I mean, there's no way possible. I'm very fortunate to still have my mother. There's no way possible for me to understand what that was like, especially going through something like you said, that if caught, with proper timing and everything, it is very treatable, and it is very beatable in a lot of cases, but there are far too many men and women that lose that battle daily, and it is something that needs to continue to be talked about. It's gained a lot of, like you said, it's gained a lot of spotlight over the years, especially
Yeah.
through professional sports programs, like Major League Baseball, the NFL. So it has garnered a certain place in society, which can only further, it's like you said, the education and everything, and hopefully, cases, unfortunate cases like your mother, become fewer and fewer. And
Yeah.
you know what, maybe one day there will be a cure. That would be absolutely incredible. So
I agree.
as always, every week, please learn more. I posted the links in the chat. I'll be posting them in the show notes later. Check it out. Susan G Komen Foundation. If you've been living under a rock, you don't know about it, there's some great info in there. But even if you know or well aware of it, check it out. They've got some fantastic programs. They do a lot for this incredible disease, and for the families and the people that suffer from it. Check it out, and please consider donating. As I always pledge every week, Omar, later this evening, excuse me, my wife and I will be making a small donation in honor of your mother.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate you bringing this to our attention. So thank you. So just a couple more questions, Omar, to wrap up our evening here. And so this next segment is a new segment that we've been doing for a few weeks, but it has a new title sponsor. So our next segment is brought to you by Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place. It can be also a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in your own personal asylum. Moments like these are made for Asylum Cigars. Light one up and choose your refuge. So, Omar, the purpose of this segment is, you and I talked a little bit about the show, and it's kind of oozed in tonight's conversation about, we're both extroverts. This community is, this industry is very community driven. Cigars are very community driven. It's about who you're with and what you're doing. It's about that moments, or the kind of what define your cigar smoking experience. But every so often, you get to have that cigar by yourself. That's that captivating moment. So you've probably had several, or maybe you haven't, but what's a moment that comes to mind when you think of, like, yeah, it was just you and it was the cigar? What was about the moment? What was the cigar, if you can recall?
Yeah.
Tell us.
I'll tell you the one that always comes to mind is December 2014. It was about a year and a half in with my brand, and I was in Pennsylvania. It was December 25th. celebrating Christmas, but it was celebrating Christmas in Pennsylvania at a house with who was a good friend of mine. And the temperature, you would have imagined that it would have been incredibly cold, but it was like 60 degrees. There was zero wind. There was, you know, zero humidity. It was perfect. I could be with this outside, and the impact of the carols and the singing and watching my children play and, with their toys, best cigar I've ever had in my life. And it was the Fratello Classico Corona. So to this day, that's one of my personal favorite blends in the Fratello lineup. And it was perfect. I think that there should be, sometimes that people tell me, it's like, oh my God, like I enjoy the cigar, but one time I lit it up and it wasn't as great. I don't know what was going on. Like, what did you do that day? What was happening? What was happening in your life? Did you get a ticket? Do you drink orange juice before you light up a cigar all of a sudden? I mean, because there could be a million things that can affect your experience. A million things. And so I always challenge them, go back to it. And I had that experience actually now in St. Louis, where I had like a customer that literally just signed up with us. It's like, I smoked a cigar at one time, but it wasn't what I connected, and he's smoking it right now. He was having a great day. And, he lit up saying, my God, this is fantastic. It's like, yeah, okay. There, who knows what was going on in your life at that time that you smoked that cigar and it just wasn't all that. And so I smoked the Fratello Corona probably more than I smoked any other cigar in my entire life. But I remember that moment as the best cigar I have ever had. And it was the combination of those things that just made it very special for me.
Mm-hmm. I think you hit on a couple of key things there. Like, so just to kind of reflect on that a little bit, like, as I was telling you before, and as some of my audience is aware of, I've moved recently, and, we moved to a place where, we have more land so that, our young boys can run around and everything. And that's, it's funny that we're talking about this, about children, and tonight, because, that was one of the first moments I was outside. We had just moved here. I'd had a couple cigars already, on my patio and everything, but my boys were playing out in the yard with the dogs, and I just sitting on the patio, and I lit up as it were a Nevada boxer, and
Yeah.
and it was, I've had that cigar plenty of times, and I've enjoyed it plenty of times, but it tasted different.
Yeah.
So to hit on your point too about that, and I remember another conversation that you and I had once about the we were talking, the subject was the what's new craze and stuff, and
Yeah.
I think you brought up this very similar point to where I'm sure was probably a similar conversation that you had with that retailer in St. Louis, which was, yeah, you've had it, but it's still new to you.
Yeah.
And I think that there's there are moments when you can go back to cigars that weren't, entirely favorable,
Yeah.
or were just different, and you can have a different experience. Like I got several more of these Virginias from the DMV collection for Tello, and while I've enjoyed the two that I've smoked tonight in a very real way, like I'm probably going to enjoy the remaining ones in a different, but they're going to be different because the circumstances
Absolutely.
will be different. So I
Absolutely.
I think it's a important distinction that a lot of people forget about this. So, and that's why I came up with this segment, is because there's those single moments. It's not about the crowd. It's not necessarily about the huge event you're at, or even the massive amounts of people around you. It's just you and the cigar and
Yeah.
what's going on at the time. So, all
100%.
right. Well, we've come to our last question of the night here, Omar, and really do appreciate all your time. Thank you so much for the incredible
My
conversation. So
pleasure,
great to have
guys.
you back. I've loved every second of it. And this is um, our curveball segment, which is of course brought to you by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter. Since the company's inception, Steve Saka has been knocking them out of the park. 7 consecutive years, count it, 7 consecutive years in the consensus top 3. Congratulations to our friend Steve for that accomplishment. So this is our curveball segment here, Omar. So this is something just a little bit different, a little bit weird. Sometimes it's out of left field. Sometimes it's a little appropriate. So here's what I was thinking about tonight. And if so, you played basketball for a number of years.
Mhm.
And I mean, I know that's kind of weird. If anyone were to ever meet you, I'm sure that would probably be not the first thing that comes through people's mind. For people who've never met Omar, he's a giant of a man. He towers over, everybody. But if you've been in this industry for quite some time now, so
Yeah.
obviously you would be in the center of the lineup. So I want you to pick 4 other industry folks to join you on the court as part of your basketball team. 4 other industry people, men, women, age, doesn't matter. Whoever you think, your other starting 4. Obviously, you would be starting, but other starting 4. Go ahead and.
So I would definitely have to choose Matt Booth. It's gonna be a point. He's gonna be a point guard. He comes from a military background, so he's. I don't think he would be too afraid to get his hands dirty and work out with the team and do a good job, but also keep us all entertained. So that would be 100% one that I have
Very
to choose.
strategic. Yeah, nice.
I think I would choose Tony for a very strategic reason. I mean, if I'm playing center, having him as a power forward, to be able
Tony
to pass
Gomez.
him the ball. Tony Gomez, yep.
Okay, LFT. Okay, yeah. All right.
LFT, to be able to get, if I'm getting double teamed, then I can basically try to pass him the ball and see how he might be able to do. I would have to choose Eric Espinosa as a small forward for sure.
Oh.
Having Eric Espinosa, I feel like Eric could help me do like a little Dennis Rodman, aggressiveness down there, be a little throw a couple elbows here and there, be able to say bro to a couple people and be good at it. And let me think.
Love it.
If I would have to choose a shooting guard to basically wrap it all up. Man, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. I probably. You know what? Man, this is a tough one because that's such a strategic position. You know what I mean? For the game, I need somebody who could potentially be fast. Man, I'm coming in empty on this one. I don't know. This is a tough one. This is a hard one. We need to get some of these people in shape.
Who knew the fun question was going to stump you tonight, man? This is funny. Oh, that's great.
We need to get some of these people in shape. That's the reality. I feel like I would love to see Steve Saka kind of like be my shooting guard, but he needs to come a little bit faster down the route, man. He needs to be able to, slim down so he can shoot that. But I feel like he can be such a good partner in terms of having him kind of like feeding the ball and then get it down. But we as an industry, we need to lose a little bit of weight. I mean, I was thinking Skip Martin too a little bit there, but there's not that many people that kind of look and play the part in terms of being a little bit in shape.
Hey, we know they got it in them. They're both ex-Navy guys, so that we know they both got it in them. They can do it. They can make it happen. Plus, and then Steve had that bet a while back with Abe and Nish about weight loss or whatever. So when they put their mind to it, yeah, no, we know they got it in them for sure. No, it's an interesting lineup. So we've got Matt Booth at point, Steve Saka at shooting guard, Eric Espinosa at small forward, power forward is Tony Gomez, and then I'm obviously yourself at the 5 position, the center. So I want to point out that the integrity of Omar de Frias here. Okay, this is a very important point. all right, to end our show tonight. The integrity of Omar de Frias with this question that I gave him. Because I said, anyone in the cigar industry, and you could have gone straight ringer and picked Carl Malone, but you didn't. That is a man of integrity that I am speaking with tonight. That is what I'm talking about. Not to say nothing of the fact that you guys both partner with the same factory. You could have gone straight ringer and you didn't. I am very proud of you, sir. You really put your head in the game. And that was awesome. That was absolutely incredible. Incredible. This has been a fantastic conversation. Omar, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's so great to have you back at the show, on my show, and it was so great to see you at the trade show, and it's great. I know I'm going to see you at the upcoming one as well, and it'll be great to see you then too. So we'll revisit then and probably talk before then. But if there's for everyone out there, check out all the things that we've been talking about. I mean, Omar's travels have been well documented, but his journey around the DMV, we documented tonight. Also, his travels to Spain. We'll be all posting everything in the show notes and everything. So check these places out. As people start to travel more again, it's important to explore the greatness of this world that has to offer, these great places and everything, and take it from some of the experts who have done the traveling for us, like Omar de Frias. Fratello Cigar, fantastic cigars. Make sure you check out his website as well. As we remind everyone, if you haven't had one, they're new to you. So check one out. The Classico, the Bianco, the Navetta, the Inverso, the Oro, the DMV collection, the Pennsylvania, the Texas, or if you're just wanting a fantastic smoke at no cost for you, very little cost for you, check out the Camos. They're fantastic cigars as well. So for everyone out there, we really do appreciate. Check out our YouTube page, hit the subscribe button. You can always listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit the download, subscribe, and review button. If you are a subscriber, do me a favor, hit unsubscribe, but hit resubscribe, because that helps my numbers so that I can continue to invite great people like Omar back on the show. And for everyone out there, this was our 206th take. Took us 3 times to get this show started, but we got it off started right, and we had a great conversation. Ooh. For everyone out there, he's Omar de Frias. I'm Bear Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. We'll see you next time.
Nice, have a good one. Bye-bye.